Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon for more. Enjoy the video. Arthur logged out of Realms of Valor and leaned back in his computer chair, rubbing his tired eyes. The clock read 2:47 a.m., another late-night adventuring as his female avatar, Caladiel. He knew he should get to bed, but he couldn't bring himself to log off quite yet. There was something undeniably thrilling about role-playing as a woman in the game, exploring a different side of himself. He clicked open Caladiel's character profile, admiring the elven archer he had carefully customized. With her lithe figure, flowing silvery hair, and elegant features, she was everything Arthur secretly wished he could be. Role-playing her made him feel graceful, confident, desirable. It was an intoxicating escape from his boring everyday life as a middle-aged accountant. But behind the excitement, there was always an undercurrent of guilt. What would people think if they knew a grown man spent his nights pretending to be a fantasy woman? Especially his wife, Hazel. She had no idea about his role-playing and would probably think it was weird, maybe even perverted. Arthur sighed and exited the game. As much as he loved being Caladiel, he knew it wasn't healthy to get too lost in the fantasy. He was just a regular guy with a normal life. Time to put the silly, girlish wishes aside and man up. Shutting down his computer, Arthur quietly made his way to the bedroom, being careful not to wake Hazel. He slipped under the covers beside her sleeping form, trying to ignore the yearning ache in his heart. If only he could be as confident and alluring as Caladiel in real life. If only he could shed the mask of boring Arthur and show the world his true self. But that was impossible. With another heavy sigh, he closed his eyes and tried to sleep. The next day was Saturday, which meant Hazel would be gone all day at her weekly yoga class and lunch with friends. Arthur had the house to himself. He puttered around doing chores for a while, but his mind kept wandering back to Realms of Valor and Caladiel. Finally, unable to resist temptation, he logged on for a quick session. He was just turning in a quest when a private message from another player popped up on his screen. It was from a warrior character he had grouped with a few times named Rendar. "Hey, Caladiel, got a minute to talk? There's something I want to ask you." Curious, Arthur typed back. "Sure, Rendar, what's up? This is probably going to sound crazy, but I can't stop thinking about you. I know we've only talked in-game, but you're the most amazing woman I've ever met. I think I'm falling for you. Is there any chance we could meet up in real life sometime? I'd love to get to know the real you." Arthur froze, his heart pounding. Rendar thought he was a woman in real life and wanted to meet up. He was stunned and a bit frightened by the unexpected message. With shaking fingers, he typed out a response. "Wow, Rendar. I'm really flattered, but I'm afraid that's not possible. I haven't been entirely honest with you. The thing is, I'm actually a guy in real life. Caladiel is just a character I roleplay. I'm sorry for misleading you. I never meant for anyone to get the wrong idea. I know it's weird for a man my age to pretend to be a woman in a game, but it's just an escape for me. I understand if you're weirded out and don't want to game together anymore. I'm truly sorry." He sent the message and held his breath, terrified of Rendar's reaction. A moment later, a response came back. "Wow, okay, I definitely wasn't expecting that. But you know what? I don't think it's weird at all. We all have different ways of expressing ourselves and exploring different sides of our personality. There's nothing wrong with role-playing a female character if that's what makes you happy. And for the record, I still think Caladiel is amazing, and I've loved every minute of adventuring with her. I'd be honored to keep gaming with you, even knowing the real-life you is a dude. Thanks for being honest with me." Tears sprang into Arthur's eyes as relief washed over him. Rendar understood. He didn't think Arthur was some sick freak. For the first time, Arthur felt a glimmer of acceptance, like maybe his feminine wishes weren't so strange and shameful after all. He spent a wonderful few hours questing with Rendar, feeling lighter than he had in years. When he finally logged off to make lunch, he was smiling. He felt like he had made a true friend who knew his secret and accepted him fully. It gave him a tentative new confidence. Humming happily to himself, Arthur made a sandwich and scrolled through his phone. A targeted ad caught his eye. It was for a gorgeous teal skater dress. Arthur paused, his thumb hovering over the link. Rendar's words echoed in his mind. We all have different ways of expressing ourselves. There's nothing wrong with role-playing a female character if it makes you happy. Heart fluttering, Arthur impulsively clicked the link and added the dress to his cart. Fingers trembling with nerves and excitement, he completed the purchase. He knew it was a risk having it delivered to the house, but he couldn't help himself. For once, he was going to indulge his desires and buy something feminine just for him. The dress arrived a few days later in a discreet package. After triple-checking that he was alone in the house, Arthur eagerly tore it open and held up the filmy teal garment. It was even more beautiful than the pictures. Reverently, he carried the dress to the bedroom and laid it out on the bed. Should he really do this? Could he really put it on? He thought again of Rendar's reassurance and his own secret yearnings. Throwing caution to the wind, he quickly stripped off his boring khakis and button-down. The silky fabric slipped over his skin like a whisper, sending tingles through his body. Arthur turned to look at himself in the full-length mirror and gasped. The skater dress fit him perfectly, draping over his slender body in a way that suggested soft curves. The teal color brought out his eyes and brightened his complexion. For the first time in his life, he felt truly beautiful. Tentatively, he did a little twirl in front of the mirror, mesmerized by the way the flared skirt fluttered around his thighs. A giddy laugh bubbled up in his throat. He felt giddy, euphoric, free. So this is what it felt like to wear a pretty dress. It was better than he had ever imagined. Suddenly, he had a wild idea. Heart pounding with excitement, Arthur snuck into the bathroom and rummaged through Hazel's makeup bag. He selected a tube of mascara and carefully applied it to his lashes, like he had watched Hazel do countless times. Next, he picked a rose lip gloss and slicked it over his lips. He topped it off with a spritz of Hazel's perfume on his wrists and neck. Feeling daring and utterly transformed, he tottered back to the bedroom in a pair of Hazel's high heels. He looked at himself in the mirror again and couldn't believe his eyes. With a lump in his throat, he realized he had never felt more like himself than he did in that moment, wearing a pretty dress and makeup. Tears of joy slipped down his cheeks. For the rest of the afternoon, Arthur lingered in his feminine attire, luxuriating in the feel of the silky dress against his skin. He experimented with different ways of walking and moving his body more gracefully. He took dozens of photos of himself, immortalizing his happiness and this profound new self-discovery. By the time he reluctantly took off the dress and makeup to prepare dinner before Hazel got home, one thing had become crystal clear. He could no longer keep these feelings bottled up. He needed to explore this side of himself more. No more shame or guilt, no more hiding. It was time to start living as his authentic self, both in the game and in real life. With an excited flutter in his stomach, he began mentally drafting the speech to tell Hazel everything that night after dinner. No matter her reaction, he knew he was done role-playing as someone he wasn't. Win or lose, it was time to stop pretending and start being true to the woman inside. That night over dinner, Arthur tried to work up the nerve to confess his secret to Hazel, but the words kept sticking in his throat. He was terrified of her rejecting him or being disgusted by his desires. So he just quietly picked at his food, stomach churning with anxiety. Hazel eyed him with concern. "Everything okay, honey? You seem really distracted tonight." "Yeah, fine," Arthur mumbled. "Just tired." Hazel hesitated, then reached out to take his hand. "Actually, there was something I wanted to talk to you about, too." Arthur's heart leaped into his throat. Oh, God, had she found the dress? Was she going to confront him about it? He braced himself for her anger and revulsion. But to his shock, Hazel gave him a coy little smile and said, "I was thinking, our love life has gotten a bit predictable lately. Maybe we could spice things up a little? Try something new?" Arthur blinked at her, completely thrown off guard. Sure, I guess. What did you have in mind? Hazel bit her lip, suddenly looking shy. Well, this is going to sound kind of weird, but I think it could be really nice if you dressed up in some of my clothes sometime. You know, like a role play thing. Arthur's jaw dropped as he stared at her in disbelief. She wanted him to wear her clothes? His mind reeled as he tried to process this stunning twist. Misinterpreting his silence, Hazel hurried to backtrack, her cheeks flushing. You know what? Never mind, it was a stupid idea. Just forget I said anything. No, Arthur blurted out, finding his voice. I mean, no, it's not stupid at all. I'm just surprised. You really want me to dress up as a woman? Hazel nodded, looking relieved that he wasn't totally freaked out. Yeah, I think it could be really fun and exciting. Honestly, I've always found androgyny and gender bending really attractive, and you have such a slim build, I bet you'd look amazing in a dress and heels. She looked at him hopefully. So what do you say? Would you be willing to try it sometime? Arthur's heart was racing and his palms were sweaty. He couldn't believe this was really happening. All this time, he had been terrified of Hazel finding out about his secret desire to dress femininely, and now here she was asking him to do that very thing. It was beyond his wildest dreams. He felt dizzy with shock and euphoria. Realizing Hazel was still waiting for an answer, he swallowed hard and managed to say in a somewhat steady voice, Yes, I'd love to dress up for you. I think that sounds like an incredible idea. He hoped his intense enthusiasm wasn't too obvious. Hazel beamed at him. Really? Oh, Arthur, you're the best husband ever. I can't wait to doll you up and see how nice you look as a woman. Thank you for being so open-minded. She leaned over to kiss him, and Arthur responded, his head spinning. This was really happening. He was going to get to dress up with his wife's blessing and encouragement. He felt like he must be dreaming. If this was a dream, he never wanted to wake up. When they broke apart, Hazel was practically bouncing in her seat with excitement. I have the best idea! Let's both take the day off work and have a makeover day. We can go shopping for clothes and makeup for you, then come home and I'll transform you into a total bombshell. We'll get all dressed up and go out on the town together as two hot ladies. Doesn't that sound amazing? It sounds perfect, Arthur said hoarsely, overcome with emotion. A whole day of indulging his deepest fantasy and bonding with his wife. Nothing could be more amazing. Let's do it. I can't wait. The next week, they both called into work and then eagerly got ready for their shopping excursion. Hazel insisted on doing Arthur's makeup before they left, so he sat at her vanity in their bedroom as she skillfully applied foundation, blush, eyeshadow, and lipstick to his face. The feeling of the makeup brushes and the sight of his features being subtly feminized in the mirror took his breath away. Hazel clearly knew what she was doing as she transformed him into a softer, prettier version of himself. They decided Arthur should stay in men's clothes for the shopping trip to avoid any awkward questions or looks, with the plan to change into his new female outfit when they got home. But just the makeup alone made Arthur feel daring and nice as they strolled through the mall together. Under the guise of picking clothes for Arthur, Hazel was able to express her own tastes and preferences without raising eyebrows from salespeople. She gravitated towards tight dresses, skirts, lacy undergarments, sky-high heels, and delicate jewelry. Arthur's pulse raced as he pictured himself wearing the nice, ultra-feminine items she added to their cart. That sales lady probably thinks I'm the weirdest woman ever for wanting my man to wear a push-up bra and stilettos. Hazel giggled conspiratorially to Arthur as they left one store. If she only knew how much you're loving it too. We're going to have so much fun with all this, baby. At the makeup counters, Hazel explained that they were shopping for her husband's cross-dressing adventure. The saleswomen took it in stride and were happy to give Arthur tutorials on applying cosmetics to enhance his features and create a convincing female look. By the time they left the mall loaded down with bags, Arthur's head was swimming with all the tips and product recommendations he had gotten. He couldn't wait to play with his new makeup collection at home. The transformation was even more dramatic and thrilling than Arthur had anticipated. In their bedroom, Hazel helped him put on a lacy purple bra and matching panties she had picked out, squealing about how cute it looked. His heart raced at the unfamiliar sensation of wearing women's clothes and being complimented on his feminine physique. Next came a black bodycon mini dress that hugged his subtle curves and a pair of sparkly black platform pumps that made his legs look a mile long. Hazel then sat him down to do his makeup again, this time going for all-out glamour with a smoky eye, false lashes, contoured cheekbones, and a bold red lip. A long, sleek black wig completed the look. When Arthur finally stood in front of their full-length mirror and saw his reflection, he hardly recognized himself. With the dramatic makeup, hair, and outfit, he really did look like an attractive woman, just as he had always dreamed and fantasized about. Tears sprang to his eyes as the reality sank in. He was finally expressing his true feminine self, and his wife was cheering him on instead of rejecting him. It was more amazing and validating than he ever could have hoped for. "Oh my God, babe, you look absolutely stunning!" Hazel gushed, standing behind him in a skin-tight red dress and black stilettos of her own. "I can't believe how gorgeous and passable you are. Every man in the club is going to be drooling over you and trying to buy you drinks." She giggled and squeezed his waist. "But sorry, boys, she's taken. I guess I'd better stake my claim now." She turned Arthur around and planted a searing kiss on his lips. "You ready to go break some hearts, baby girl? Time to go show the world what a nice woman I've got on my arm." Arthur gulped and nodded, tremendously excited, but also nervous about the prospect of actually going out in public while cross-dressed. His towering heels felt wobbly, and he was acutely aware that he would be read as a woman by everyone who saw him. It was scary to put the feminine identity he had always kept carefully hidden on display for all the world to see. But Hazel's obvious approval and delight gave him the courage he needed. Hand in hand, they tottered out to the car together on their high heels. Hazel insisted on driving so that Arthur could get used to riding in a vehicle while en femme. As she navigated them towards the club district, Arthur fidgeted with his dress and tried to quell his nerves. He caught a glimpse of his made-up face in the visor mirror and had to suppress a hysterical giggle. He really was going out on the town dolled up as a woman with his wife by his side. This was so insane and yet so incredibly exhilarating. His stomach fluttered with butterflies. Walking from the parking lot to the club entrance was a surreal experience. Arthur was intensely aware of the click of his heels on the pavement, the breeze on his bare legs, the bounce of his false chest, the swish of his wig against his shoulders. He felt eyes on him from every direction and resisted the urge to shrink or hide. Instead, he concentrated on walking with the sassy, swaying strut Hazel had taught him, trying to project confidence in his feminine disguise. To his shock and delight, it seemed to be working. He noticed appreciative male gazes following him as he walked by. When Hazel possessively looped her arm through his, several men shot them envious looks, clearly assuming they were a lesbian couple. It made Arthur feel desirable and powerful in a whole new way. Was this what beautiful women felt like all the time? No wonder Hazel was so self-assured. The pounding music enveloped them as they made their way onto the crowded dance floor. At Hazel's urging, Arthur let go of his inhibitions and began moving to the beat, his hips swaying and his arms lifting flirtatiously. He could feel the eyes of both men and women on him as he danced, captivated by his feminine appearance and movements. It was dizzying and addicting. They danced together. The booze and the pounding bass and the incredible rush of being desired as a woman created a heady cocktail in his bloodstream. Arthur lost himself in the fantasy, imagining himself as a beautiful girl driving everyone wild with lust. As the night went on, Arthur felt more and more at home in his femme fatale persona. The initial stares and attention had worried him at first, making him feel self-conscious and exposed. But the more he relaxed into it, the more he realized that the looks were admiring, not mocking. Men were captivated by the gorgeous, mysterious, raven-haired beauty commanding the room. Women seemed fascinated and perhaps a bit envious of his flamboyant look and great confidence. He noticed many of them copying his dance moves and checking out his daring outfit. Rather than embarrassment, Arthur started to feel a deep sense of joyful pride. For the first time in his life, he was fully and publicly expressing his feminine side, and not only was it not a disaster, it was a smashing success. People found feminine Arthur alluring, enticing, and exciting. They wanted him, both men and women. It was the most validating experience imaginable. He lost count of the number of free drinks that were sent their way by hopeful suitors. Hazel loudly turned down each one on her girlfriend's behalf, clearly reveling in the role-playing as much as he was. Every rejection just made Arthur feel more desired and powerful. It was a dizzying power trip. Through it all, Hazel was right there with him, drinking, dancing, playing with gender roles, and egging him on. Arthur was having the time of his life, embracing his feminine wiles and flaunting their unconventional relationship dynamic. It was exhilarating, being out on the town dolled up to the nines, acting like the female bombshell he had always dreamed of being. He was Caladiel come to life, an alluring elven archer driving men and women wild with her ethereal beauty. But rather than pixels, the hungry gazes and covetous touches were real. Rather than shame and fear over his feminine yearnings, he felt profound relief and joy. This was him unleashed, not a facade, but his deepest self allowed to shine. It was the most incredible high. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out Patreon for a lot more content and early access to YouTube videos.